got fired up to go live.
It's still dark behind us.
It is. I get that. I'm not sure why.
I thought we remedied that last time.
Because we had more lights on.
Like what lights? What more lights? That overhead?
I think so. All right, there we're live. Here we are. Say hello to the world because you're on.
Hello. Good evening.
All right, so look at you. She's all dressed in her new purple Alzheimer's sweater and sweatshirt, I guess I should say. And so we're waiting for some people to come on forward. And hope everybody had a good week. We have had some interesting highlights as well. Everyone's life goes like that, right? Okay, so our discussion today is going to be again on Alzheimer's, on brain fog, on all things metabolic that look like this. And so every Sunday we get together and some of our friends come and visit us and we talk about Alzheimer's, we talk about caregiving, we talk about...
You got sparkles on you.
I have sparkles?
Yeah.
I have sparkles. Anyway, so we talk about all things to do with this topic. And I'm George, and this is
Cheryl.
And we're good buddies, right? You would say that. And between us, we have about 100, almost 155 years of experience going through a lot of this. And we're going to talk about different things related to dementia. We're going to talk about different things related to that. And so, and Minerva says her mother will be 83 on January 28th. Well, congratulations. We're excited for a happy birthday there in the Philippines. And I'm the oldest of 10. And now of 10 of us, 5 of us are now 70 or older. And the other 5, by the time they get there, I'll be 80. But then, so that's how that works. And we'll talk about Cheryl and her family and history and that in a little bit, because it's a deal. I mean, how families are interesting. And when we start looking at Alzheimer's and we look at dementia, and that historically it's just old people. And then it was, it's your family. And now there's all kinds of things. The youngest person in the world diagnosed with Alzheimer's is 19. So 19 is the youngest that we have of anybody having Alzheimer's. Hey, Andrew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing amazing. And you?
Unbelievable. But yeah, 19 is the youngest person with Alzheimer's now in the world.
Wow.
Died at 22. But we're finding that there's all kinds of different types of dementia, and dementia is really let me pull this up. Dementia is really the umbrella here. We start talking about all things related to it. So I'm just going to get this. You can see that under the umbrella of it is a big umbrella. That's dementia. And there's Alzheimer's, which you're familiar with. And we'll talk about that. There's frontal temporal dementia, which is another animal. That's predominantly, we're seeing that in younger and younger. And then there's Lewy body dementia. And the Lewy body dementia is oftentimes misdiagnosed. One thing about it is that it's mood behavior, not memory. So frontal temporal is more That's a little bit different. And then there's vascular, and that's around strokes and things. So under a large umbrella, we're talking about dementia. And sometimes people use dementia and Alzheimer's interchangeably. And oftentimes when we've talked about dementia in the past, people will talk about someone that's getting violent, if we will. They're angry. They have superhuman strength. They become unmanageable for themselves being safe and or the caregivers. And when that phase comes up, oftentimes people call that dementia. It's not. It's just another step in Alzheimer's, in the transition to when we lose them. Where it's then just another stair step of the Alzheimer's to death. It's just another one of those stair steps. And in that transition, then we get to the whole thing of what? Eating, right? What happens then? Do you remember some of the stuff that happens?
They quit eating. They don't want to eat. They start gagging. They'll keep their food in their mouth and not swallow, even though you're feeding them. And they lose their, I guess, what you call it, they can't eat anymore. They don't know how.
Yeah. And then it's a final step. And you don't want to force them to eat because then they can
asphyxiate.
They can asphyxiate, or food can go in their lungs and that type of thing. So it's just a natural step of Alzheimer's when we're phasing out. When the body doesn't need to eat anymore. The body doesn't need any nutrition. It's shutting itself down. And so that's part of the Alzheimer's, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The one thing though we do want to talk about is the fact that Alzheimer's, as we know it now, and more, we're seeing that it is reversible. It is preventable. It is improvable. There's more and more clinical studies and research, and with real people, not just laboratory stuff. So there's actual provable case studies where people that are given assistance, that's probably a good word, assistance with lifestyle, exercise, food, combinations of a lot of different things, exercises, physical exercise, mental exercise, that we can reverse things. And one of the early onsets of the other side is brain fog. And we'll talk about that because I went through that. I don't know if you ever had brain fog, but I had brain fog insanely. And Sam just messaged me. Sam won't be able to get on tonight. He's driving. But part of his story, Andrew, is that he was driving, and he was driving, I believe it was in California, and he delivered campers. Okay, he delivered campers, and that he'd been doing it for years, like 30 of them. And I got to get you in the frame. That's why I'm moving over. Got to see you here, dear. So
Yes.
But he was delivering, and he was somewhere in California, and he didn't know where he was. The route that he's done, and he had a software app to do some logging of his trip. Didn't know how to run it. Did not know how to run it. I mean, that is more than scary, isn't it? And got out of the truck and literally got on his knees and just prayed for God for help. And his wife, he calls his wife, and they're thinking about having their son come up and grab him, help him. But with the GPS and the electronics that we have now, he could turn on his GPS to get home. This system knew how to get him home, so he got home. But interestingly enough, in his prayers, he found um, a friend of ours in England doing a talk on our protocol, and they had an hour conversation, and ended up got right on the protocol, and that's what part of what's really saved his life, and that now that's part of his story, and then of course with type 2 diabetes and a bunch of other things, and his wife too. But when you go to starting to talk about the brain, Alzheimer's, dementia, frontal lobe, there's about 13%, and I don't know if you know this, but there's 10 to 13% of all Alzheimer's is actually misdiagnosed, and it's liver related. It's liver related, but because of how they test and things, they don't go to the liver. They think it's all up here, but people forget that the whole body's connected. They forget that there's not a simple single thread. And so that's one of the things that we can look at and have a conversation too, because everybody wants to be right? And so everybody says, you need to do this or only that. If you say left, someone's going to say right. Other people say just stay where you are. Everybody wants to have a point, and I think that's part of our issues is that we're all or nothing. It's like ultra processed food. Don't ever eat it. Okay, that's hard to do. And 8%, 70 to 80% of all the food available is ultra processed. Almost all food is processed. Even if you're right underneath a cow and you're pulling on it, unless you got it squeezed and drank it right now, it's going to go into a bucket. It goes from a bucket to the cooler. If it goes from the cooler to a jar, it goes from a jar to a glass. That's kind of some steps, isn't it? Away from the original. So it's sort of processed. I mean, I don't know, but.
Well, especially if it goes into a plastic jar, we've learned a lot about endocrine disruptors, right? And
exactly.
It can pick up the microplastics, even if it's just going to a plastic jar.
Yeah. So someone will almost always find fault. Someone will almost always find fault with something, right? Because everybody wants to be right. And I'm really shaming to the thought, okay, great. Let's look how everything works together. So it's not just this, it's this with this in combination with that. So we look at the totality, because we talk about the gut and what the gut needs. Someone that all they think about is the gut, then what part of the gut? They'll start talking about, well, the GLP-1, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you're losing scale weight. What does that really mean? What is that? What else is happening? What happens when you stop? Looking at the totality of the long game here, and that. So, and when we start looking at some of the history and things of Alzheimer's, Cheryl's story is the fact that it's really a story. And I'll just let her tell you a little bit about it. Andrew, here, let me just pop up there. There we go. Okay, dear. So tell us why.
Okay, I'm an identical twin. I'm the oldest by an hour. My twin sister, Sharon, I'm on the right there, and she's on the left. We had the same mannerisms. We were mirror twins, meaning usually mirror twins, one start out left-handed and the other one's right-handed. Well, in my day, if you were left-handed, that was a no-no, and they changed you to right-handed. And that was the case with my sister. I'm right and she was left, but she ended up being right. We were so alike, we would finish each other's sentences. We would feel the same things. My late husband would accuse she and I, of sitting in a room full of people and ignoring everybody, and we were talking to each other. We didn't realize we were doing it. It's just how close we were. She was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's when she was 54 years old.
What were some of this? What led to that? What were some of the signs and symptoms? What caused?
Well, she was working for the school district in the guidance office as a secretary. And she was having a hard time. I remember her calling me every night in tears, and she said, I can't handle this anymore. The kids are driving me nuts. This one gal was driving her crazy, and that wasn't like her. And the principal did call my brother-in-law and say, I think you need to have Sharon checked. There's something wrong. He said, she always loved the kids and they loved her, but she just couldn't handle it. And so her husband took her to the doctor. They diagnosed her with depression, which is kind of normal at times when this starts happening. And they were building a house, and they had built many houses, but they were in the process of building a house, and she was always a general contractor, made sure everything got ordered on time and for the builder. And she was forgetting if she ordered stuff. I didn't notice it as much as they did at first because they lived with her every day when I didn't. And, but they put her on meds for depression, and that didn't help. So her husband said to the doctor, how about taking her to Mayo Clinic? And they did, and that's where she was diagnosed. They were up there a week. They came back, and my nephew's wife was having a birthday party for him. And I went, and that's when her husband told me that they were looking at dementia. And I fell apart. I really did. I could not believe it. And he asked me if I wanted to go up to Mayo Clinic with them the next week. And I said, yes. And that's where we got it was Alzheimer's. They said dementia with a probability of Alzheimer's. And they can't really tell it was pure or real Alzheimer's until after death. And her brain did go to Harvard, and it was true Alzheimer's. It was a hard road to travel, seeing her go downhill where she was so vibrant. We would always get together in her kitchen, her daughter, my daughter, me, and Sharon, and do Christmas cookies. And the last time we did it, she couldn't remember if she would dump things out because she couldn't remember if she put them in or hadn't. So she was very frustrated. The decline, they told us at Mayo that she could be in a nursing home in 4 years. And in my mind, I thought, no way, how can this be? And it was 5 years. Her husband took very good care of her. He even would put makeup on her and do her hair. Even just go to Walmart because he knew she wanted to look nice.
Now you got involved with the Alzheimer's Association too, didn't you?
Yes, we did. I guess because we were twins, that there was an interest in us, and we got involved with the local chapter, and then got involved in the Peoria, Illinois chapter, where that was the main home or whatever of the Alzheimer's Association. And they asked me to go give a speech at the Alzheimer's convention. Sharon went with me.
In Washington. In
Washington, D.C., yes. She was diagnosed in January, and this was the following spring, like April, I think. And she had already deteriorated to the point that I had never flown by myself. It was always my late husband and I always went everywhere together. So I had to take care of her, do all the luggage, and I couldn't let her out of my sight. And we went through security, and she got pulled to the side, and I was behind her, and I said, she can't be alone. Could you wait for me? I said, she has Alzheimer's. She can't be alone. So that was hard. It was hard. The speech, when I started writing it, it just flowed, and I hated speech class in high school. I'm sorry, I get very emotional when I talk about this. Anyway, I gave a speech. There was over 300 people there. And when I sat down and wrote the speech, it just flowed because it was my heart speaking. And Sharon was up on the stage with me sitting down. But she went in nursing home the last year of her life.
And she was diagnosed how many years before she was in the nursing home? 4, 3, 4, 5?
4, but we think it started probably maybe 2 years before she was actually diagnosed. We, look back at things. Her self-confidence. We went to Florida for her stepson's wedding, and me and her daughter took a walk on the beach the morning of the wedding, and she was just, her confidence wasn't there anymore. She was like, she normally would have been walking right up with us, but she was lagging behind, and got very quiet. She was not herself. And, gradually declined in the nursing home. She was very scared when she first got there, and they told us to wait a week before we went to see her so she could kind of settle in. And me and her daughter went, and it was on a Friday night. And she was looking, they're in a locked Alzheimer's unit. And because they will try and escape. Some of them do. And she saw us through the door, and she started crying. She was scared. She really was. And then it got to the point where we had to cover the mirrors in her room because she would walk up to the mirror and look and start crying. Like deep down, she knew she wasn't supposed to look the way she looked. We didn't even look like twins at the end. Not at all. You wouldn't have known we were twins. And she started her decline on, me and her daughter, there was a Christmas program at the nursing home, so we went there, but by that time she was in one of those reclining wheelchairs, and she didn't have a clue what was going on, but we took her. She did like music. She really liked music when she was in her disease. And but the last time I fed her was New Year's Day, and she was choking, she was gagging, and I thought, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing it, because she couldn't eat. And that was on a Monday. I went back on Wednesday. The hospice nurse had just put her back in bed after her shower. And I said, she's not breathing right. The hospice nurse didn't even see that. Mm-hmm. But I knew right away. So they called the nurse from the nursing home in and said, took her vitals, and she said, I think you better call family. So I called family. They came. That was on a Wednesday. And I knew she was going to die on Saturday. She did. Her daughter and I stayed around the clock with her. I slept in bed with her. But I knew that's how close we were. I knew what day she was going to die. And I wouldn't wish that disease on anyone. You know, why did she get it? Why didn't I? But she did have a lot of more stress in her life than I did.
And when we look back, we were talking the other day, trying to look, okay, great. So here it's identical twins. One developed Alzheimer's, one didn't. Okay, identical twins. So they have the same genes, the same APO4 genes, the 3 and 2. They have the same, and they grew up in the same environment. Identical twins. Ate the same, lived in the same town as adults. Mm-hmm. Just difference would be potentially stress. And then say, okay, great. Well, okay, go. What about the family? Well, how old was Dad and how old was Mom when they passed?
My dad was 98, and his mind was brilliant.
He was a great guy.
He had a leaky valve in his heart, and that's what got him. And he was going to have that. He was bound determined he was going to have that valve replaced. So they would have gone up through both sides of the groin. They wouldn't have had to cut him open, the sternum or anything. But so he went through all the pre-op tests in January of that year. And then he found out he had a carotid artery that would have had been fixed first. And he said, quality is better than quantity. And I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks later, he passed.
Yeah.
He passed.
And then Mom lives, how old was Mom?
Mom was 95. But COVID she lived in assisted living and being so isolated during that time. They brought their food up to them. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't see anybody. I couldn't go see her. I could talk on the phone, but that ended
through the window.
Yeah, or through the window. But that had to stop because she couldn't hear me. She was hard of hearing, and she just couldn't hear me.
That's no way to live.
No, it's not.
Yeah, they isolated everybody, and isolation does what? I mean, what does that do to people mentally? I mean, isn't that one of the punishments that'll do is put you in isolation?
Yeah.
Think about that. They isolated them. So here's 90, 95, and it was fine. And then, okay, great. Going to be in isolation. You can't see, can't go. Well, and then let's go back to what about Grandma and Grandpa's on
my grandfather on my dad's side, he died at, I think, 74, but he had a stroke. And in those days, they didn't, couldn't do what they do now. But my grandmother, his wife, lived to be 99. My mother's parents didn't live that old. My grandfather, my mom's dad, died of cancer, and I don't remember how old he was. They had moved to California. They lived here all their life and moved to California because they had other kids out there. Besides, my mom was the only one left here because, her and her sister. The other ones had moved to California. So they went out there, and Grandpa died of colon cancer. And Grandma, we knew she had an enlarged heart for a long time. And she outlived him, but I forget. I don't even remember how old they were.
Yeah. So in the layout of the land, Andrew, if you look at it, we've got no Alzheimer's.
Right.
We're 2 generations, backwards. And now a brother passed, but that wasn't Alzheimer's.
He had a cerebral hemorrhage when he was 27.
Yeah. So sister was the only one, and a twin sister. So when we talk about it's genetic, okay, fine. Give me that layout. We all have the pairs, and we all have the APO, and there's 2, 3s, and 4s, and so there's a propensity to have, but there has to be a stimuli to create the activation, and as the more we learn on this, Keith, the more we learn, the more we look at. Hi, Joy. Thank you very much, Joy. The more we see that reaction of there's something else that could be causing this and that. And then listening to the story, the more we listen to it, it looks like we started with the Lou because we had the emotional things going on before we had memory loss. Her mind was fine in terms of memory, but the social dynamics and the personality kind of had altered. And then it went to the mental. It wasn't mental first. She was fine doing her work. She was fine doing her job. Until she wasn't. So it looks like potential, but that's not how people diagnose things before. So that's not how things were working before. Now, let me ask you this, Cheryl. Now, yeah, I know how old you are. Okay. And of course, Andrew does too. So yes. And she's older than me. So that's just why I have that clarification. And I mean, you have your purple Alzheimer's sweatshirt on. Like that's so cool. I love that.
That George got me.
I got you, of course. That's right. But anyway, the question I have is, you are on the protocol, and what are you on the pro? Why are you following this?
Actually, George, can I ask a question first?
Sure.
So, Cheryl, they did study on you, right?
Okay, so that second week that she went to Mayo, I went with them, and the doctor asked us how different questions, like how our lifestyles would have been different, but they really weren't, and she ate healthy. She was a very good cook. She fixed good meals. I don't know.
So they didn't learn anything from the study of comparing you guys at that point.
No, at that point. I often said, I wish we could have done a study at that time, but if how my brain would be different after I die than hers was, but I don't know if they keep all those records. I don't know. I have a whole bunch of sheets on the the brain thing they did, the autopsy on the brain, and there's a lot of plaques, tangles, gray matter,
But they really couldn't find anything significant that they could point to that might be the difference between the way you two lived.
No, we lived in the same area. She lived on a farmette. They had horses, and they grew corn and stuff like that. But I lived in town. We basically had the same lifestyles. There wasn't really anything different. And I've been exposed to paint all my life. I mean, not my life, my adult life. My late husband, he used to paint. He started out working in a body shop, but he would do things on the side. And he would paint cars in our garage with nothing but an exhaust fan out the window and a wet handkerchief over his mouth. And, that was, and it's in paints. It's very deadly. But, and I'm working in a body shop now. And there's times, people will come in the office and say, "Oh my God, how do you stand it here?" And I said, "I don't even smell it anymore. I don't smell it anymore." Although we have a downdraft paint booth and stuff, but we have a prep area, and then you do get some of that fumes. But yeah, I mean, I've been exposed to that stuff all my life, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you started the protocol. And why did you start the protocol?
Well, because I want to stay healthy. I am healthy. I just turned 80. I'm very healthy for an 80-year-old.
Yes, you are.
A lot of people my age aren't. Sometimes I'm like the Energizer Bunny.
Really, for real.
Although I have felt myself slow down some. I don't push myself like I used to. But I just started on the protocol because I want to stay healthy and I want to keep my brain healthy. And I'm still working. That's probably good for me, although there's a lot of stress at that office, but it keeps my brain active, and that's, I'm not the type of person to sit down at night and just watch TV. Well, this time of year I do more of that, but I don't really sit down a lot during the week and watch TV. In the summer, I have my yard. I love my yard. I do all the mowing, and I have somebody come in, and I have some pretty good sized bushes and trees that I have them trim up. But other than that, I do all my yard work. I mow, I do the garden, and that's my outlet. That's my outlet.
George doesn't mow your yard for you?
I'll tell you what happened. So, but I'm very anal about my yard too. The lines have to be straight. Well, the first time we hadn't dated very long, and I push mow the front and the sides, and I had a rider for the back because my yard's fairly good size. And so he decided he was going to come up and mow my yard for me. So he's on the tractor. And that was, I never had to take care of my mowers. My husband changed the oil. He did all that stuff. So I didn't pay any attention to that. And so he was riding the motor and it died on him. Well, it was out of oil. There was no oil in it. It killed the mower. So he wouldn't mow after that. I said it would have happened if I was riding it.
Yeah, thank you for that one. That was, So,
awesome.
yeah,
I'll remember that.
Yeah, there you go. So, absolutely. But in terms of mowing the yard, according to Claudia and Jaime, yes, the yard gets mowed. Anyway, Keith, I see you got your dad died of ALS. Oh my gosh, sorry, buddy. The interesting thing is that you were on the protocol for 90 days, and what happened?
Well, I had a hysterectomy in 2016.
Our fourth date.
You act like that's her fault, George.
Yeah, right. So, and it was preventative. My paths just weren't showing up like they should. No cancer or anything. And I started on the protocol, I think last March.
Or something like that, right in there.
And I had a PAPS test the following July last year. And I got the results, and it was normal. And I just had another one this past week. And the doctor said, do you want us to send you a letter, or do you want us to call you? I said, no, call me because I'll find out faster. And so, and I showed her all the information about the protocol and the balance. And she was very interested. And she said, there are other things that help other than drugs.
Yeah.
So she was going to read through it. And so.
Now,
So just a quick question. So I'm assuming that your PAPs normally weren't normal.
No.
They were abnormal for years.
Yes.
And so just after a few years or a few months of being on the protocol, you started having consecutive normal PAPs.
Well, I just had one. That was
Okay.
in July, and then I just had another one last week. So hopefully.
Okay, so you're waiting for the results on that.
Right. Yes.
But that was like your first normal one, and
Yeah.
9 years.
Well, no, it was before that I was having.
Before
that's why I
that.
had the hysterectomy.
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah, that's right.
that's
Longer than
phenomenal.
9 years.
So it's probably inflammation or something. I Hi.
Hey,
Uh-oh.
Benita.
Hi, you guys. How
Hi.
are you?
Good.
Oh, yeah, I'll share.
Gonna give
An
her
inch.
give her an inch there so she can get a mile. There you go.
Right?
Right? Oh my
Have
gosh,
you-
where did Everest go? How come you're not in?
Because I'm in SteamYard and they have brick backgrounds.
Yeah,
I feel like
exactly.
Oh, I thought you were outside or something.
Yeah, he's got see
you
how the
are.
bird is
It's
on
Well,
his
yeah,
office.
his office.
there? Wonderful.
That's the capacity in our home.
There you go. So have you guys had to deal with brain fog or caregiving for mental for Alzheimer's or dementia, any of that? Have you had that in
Well,
your family history or
I wish that we had this protocol when his grandpa lived with us because he was a type 2 diabetic for golly, like 30 plus years, but he was one of the most astute people I know. And he worked really hard using supplements to try to take care of himself. But in the end, he wound up, it was the sugar, like I know 100%. And he wound up having a seizure that led to rhabdomyolysis. So the seizure caused him to have a fall out of bed, and we didn't know about it for, gosh, he was
12
probably
hours.
down for like 12 hours. And so by the time I found him, like the degradation of his muscles and his mind, like when I found him, he had already reverted thinking like I was his first wife. So it was really, he went from reading our kid a book on his tablet
His Kindle.
and his little Kindle for bedtime to immediately just losing all of his mental capacity. So his brain had turned off. And had we had a tool like the protocol, I know that even with his ecosystem of loving cookies, like the man loved steak, potatoes, and cookies. Like it was like on repeat. But even with that, had we been able to get fiber into his gut, heal the inflammation that he had, and keep his sugar spikes low, I'm pretty sure like we could have had many more years with him in our home, and we would have loved that because he was
full of energy.
he was
And
good.
I
He was
mean,
good to have.
he still made it to 92 and he was extremely healthy getting there, even with all of his other little,
nicks and crannies?
yeah.
But get this, you guys, he lost his 5 kids and 2 wives. And all of it was to the big C. And we know that the impact on his family could have been
Huge.
yeah. And in a way, I'm not going to say that this is perfect and this is going to prevent everything. And this is like, your miracle way out. But this is the first step in changing the ecosystem in which you live that can cause better environmental outcomes, right? Because you're a whole person and your environment has to change along with it. So if this is the key that allows the garden to come alive per se, like if we're thinking in garden analogies, then everything will come into play. Like the fiber is added, the food is added, the food ordered, and then little things like now you're walking, now your hormones are working. It's just been a joy to be able to share this with others. But I know that we could have made an impact on our family decades ago that would have had a huge difference for our kids who won't ever get to meet their grandparents.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one regret. My sister, she met her first granddaughter, but after that, she didn't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather got to meet 3 of my kids and my mom didn't get to meet any of them.
I know.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. And I'm very thankful. My mom, she's battled cancer twice. And I am so grateful she never chose to do chemotherapy. I think it really allowed her to go into fasting naturally. Because it's really interesting. She told me the other day, she was like, oh, when I had to do all that radiation, it got me so sick. All I could eat was red chili and eggs. And I was all, so you were making ketones the whole time. Like ding, 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 ding.
Natural protection there.
Right? Like they're killing everything off at the same time. She's really leaning into a fasted state where she could naturally heal her body, right? So it's kind of like you always wonder what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing.
This is my mom, and mom is 96 now, and lives in her own home. We have a niece that cares for her. We have boots on the ground, and she has Alzheimer's, but still knows everybody. She's and so has the sharp whip. So nice for you to show up. Finally, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but sometimes they fake it.
Yeah. So, but this girl, our mother, and I have to call her our mother, is if you can imagine, I'm the oldest of 10. There's 5 boys and 5 girls, and we now live in 8 different states, including Hawaii, Alaska, Florida, California. But she is the matriarch of our family. I'm the patriarch, and I've been a patriarch now for almost 35 years. But mom, at age 51, Benita, you'll love my mom, that her story. At age 51, she went, after 10 of us went back to college. At 56 as a PhD RN. The picture that's right here is of the 10 of us was like 10 years ago when she was inducted into one of the 3 Hall of Fames that she's been inducted into.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
For youth and for sports and for amateur sports and that kind of thing. And one of the fun things are while they're she was secretary treasurer of the AU and a bunch of things. And in South Dakota, now mind you, South Dakota, they needed a chairperson for wrestling. So she said, okay, I'll do it. And so she became that. And in South Dakota, under her, there was 2,000 kids registered for wrestling. And that was more than any other state at the time. And 2 of those were girls from our hometown of like 750 people. And people at wrestling matches would go like, I'm not having my boys wrestle no girl. And my mom would say, well, that's fine. You don't have to. But there's nowhere in the rule that says they can't wrestle. And so if you don't want to wrestle them, that's fine. But, that's your choice. And, just so you know, I've got 5 boys and 5 girls, and they wrestle all the time. So it's like, for her, it was like no big deal. Let her rip.
Right.
But she was, you'll love this as a nurse. She was the national nurse for the Special Olympics in New Orleans when Schwarzenegger and Shriver were in charge. We were Scout Family of the Year and a gazillion other things, but that's our mom. And so, I know that if we would have been able to get the protocol in her, we wouldn't have these issues.
Well, I don't know what she looked like, but having 10 kids, women, and I had 4, right? So we get told a lot after we have our kids, like, oh, it's your body's the way it is because you had kids, or, oh, it's fine. That's just what happens to your body. And like, it's almost like our microenvironment of people saying things to us makes us think like, okay, well, this is acceptable. This is normal. And it's not. Like your mom is really insulin resistant. And what happens a lot of times is towards that last pregnancy when we like are tapped out and we know like, oh, like I knew on my 4th pregnancy, like, ooh, this is getting really hard. Like I had gestational diabetes. My child was over 10 pounds. And Andrew was like, we're not doing this again. Like, that was it. Like, your body is tapped out. So every woman kind of knows, like, when they hit that last pregnancy. And so more than likely coming out and flipping the switch back into fat burning is really difficult after the last pregnancy.
Yeah, could be. But I tell you, Mom, what did Mom tell you one time about being pregnant? She'd still be pregnant if she could, right?
Oh,
No, she said I'd rather be pregnant than have periods.
I'm with her on that.
Not me.
But
I am so with her with that. I loved being pregnant. I loved carrying babies, but
Yeah, I don't know. I was never comfortable being pregnant. But in my days, we didn't have the clothes and stuff that they have nowadays. I just felt like a blimp. And after I had my second baby, I was a blimp.
but like you're supposed to be. You're like, I'm like trying to hold on to this.
I just ate everything that I wanted to eat, and I knew I shouldn't be doing that. But when I had my third one, she was a girl. I had two boys and a girl, and I didn't even really look too pregnant when I had her.
Oh wow!
So yeah,
So mom is a lone survivor of her family, just like Cheryl is. And she's outlived her parents, of course. She's outlived all of her brothers. But there's 10 of just in our tally, just in our with mom, there's 10, then there's 38, then there's over 100. And then there's a dozen. So she's the top of a 5-generation family. Now I only have 4. I've been part of a 5-generation family because mom's mom was to 100. So I've been part of a 5-generation family for almost ever, it seems like. And so one of my goals with the protocol, is I want to be the first male in our family to have 5 generations. I have 4. I've got ways to go because they're 5. The oldest is 5. I'm not trying to rush them or anything, but
come on, Chip.
Yeah, let's go. Snap here. We got things to do here. I need 5 generations. Lincoln.
You need another 20 years. You got another 20 years, George. So
it's great.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. I've got 5. I got 4. I need one more gen to get the 5th. So, and the youngest there is 5. So 20 years maybe. So whatever. But
there we go.
That's mom, and that's some more of her greats and greats, and they dropped in on her, and you just see the joy. That's really what it's about. Is we have family, and we're blessed that we are able to still keep her in her own home. And so now we have a niece that's 24/7. We have respite for the niece twice a week. Twice a week. And then hospice comes in. So there's 3 different things. The hospice comes in twice a week now, and that's been going on for
a couple of years,
almost a year anyway.
Oh yeah, at least.
And then the respite for her that's been coming in, that's been over a year, almost 2. So one of the big things in terms of caregiving is, and it's kind of a undocumented statistic that I know of, but the caregivers tend to go out and die before the patients. Because if you don't get a respite, if you're all about taking care of somebody else 24/7, that becomes the focus, right, nurse, right, mom, right? And then your health goes down the tube faster than the person who is up here, and their mind the body's just working and they have no stress.
Right. Meanwhile,
you as a caregiver have your stress, the stress of caregiving. So now you've doubled the cortisol. Your behaviors, your sleep, and everything else goes to the wind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lesson there is that if you're a caregiver like Jennifer, and Jennifer's traveling today, we'll catch up with her tomorrow. But Jennifer's been caregiver in home for 2 years, and we've been able to help guide her a little bit and get her to get more rest and get more understanding that her job is not to be the police. Her job is to manage, but take care of yourself first. It's just like, what do they tell you on the airline? You know, and the light in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, mask will fall down, and put the butter cap over your mouth because they don't want to hear you scream anymore. No, they're saying put it over your mouth and nose first, because if you can't save you, how can you save anybody else? So you got to save you first, Mom, and then you get to save the other people. And that's really the secret for caregiving. And so we want people to understand that if you're a caregiver, look for those resources. Reach out, even to reach out to us to help you like that. And one of the things that can help is to get the food noise in your world kind of silenced down, right? To get a little more calm. And so that flattens out our eating habits. That flattens out our cravings, right? And we get to take care of our own hormones, our own brain stimuli, the serotonin and the dopamine, by enhancing our gut biome, helping our gut work better, because that's where the stuff comes from. 60 to 80% or more comes from the gut, and if the gut's not well, a lot of people have no clue to this. And fiber is part of the answer. Now, does it have to be this fiber? It doesn't have to be this fiber, but it has to be some fiber, and it has to be a lot more fiber. This just makes it what? Easier. And we have this before every meal, don't we?
Every meal?
Well, when we, like tonight, what do we have for dinner? What do we have for dinner?
We had pork roast, and we had baked sweet potato, and roasted cauliflower and carrots.
Yeah. And so we ate fiber first. So here's fiber first, and then go fiber, fats. So that's
fiber, fats.
That's the order of food, right? That's the order of food.
I've not had a hard time fasting because I've been kind of like that all my life, really.
Yeah.
You know.
There's our only meal today too. So
yeah.
Well, that's kind of how I was today. I learned from Mindy Peltz.
Yeah.
Directly from her, because I get to have a live with her every week now. And she was talking about melatonin and how much insulin is impacting melatonin. So we had a girl from Finland who was struggling because she didn't know what her eating window was. And so Mindy broke it down so easy. She was like, okay, well, where do you live and how many hours of sunlight do you have? And she goes, well, I'm in Finland and we only have 4 hours of sunlight. So she goes, okay, your eating window is now 4 hours, because when you eat outside of the sunlight hours, then you automatically stop melatonin in its tracks. So then your circadian rhythm doesn't get to have that natural fluctuation. And so it's like a cascade and throws everything off. And I was like, oh my gosh, how many of us in America have blown right past that, and we just eat into the late hours, or we just assume that we have to eat at, 7, 12, and 5, or even however you work that 9, 12, and 7. And we've just been trained, like that's our ecosystem. That's the mindset we've put ourselves in. And so when I was listening to this gal in Finland, I was like, her life is going to dramatically change, because if she goes to 1 meal a day, because her eating window is so small, but now her melatonin gets to control the night hours, she'll actually start to have better energy and get the quality rest that she needs in the hours she's sleeping. And I was like, oh, I am so excited to learn more. Like, I am like, give it to me all.
Sure. Well, that's great. That's a great thing, because the thing I think is when I talk about eating windows, I talk about like a goalpost.
Yeah.
You score in the goalpost. You score in here, score like there, right? So now what I just saw when you told me that, I have a sun on the top of my goalpost. And I'm going to eat between my goalposts. So
right,
perfect.
Exactly.
I love it.
And and when we go into the summer
Yeah.
and we're exercising more and we're doing more activity, our goalposts can change a little, right?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot more flexibility. And then when we go in the winter, like we're not as active, which naturally means our goalposts should kind of close down a little more, right? And
Yeah.
so depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and what I've been doing, and she hasn't totally noticed it, but in the mornings when I get up, I'm going to the kitchen window to make tea in the morning, but I'm also watching the sunrise. I'm looking to see the sunrise. I'm working that circadian rhythm just a little bit. From we had that one educational talk about a month ago. Was all about the sun, all about the sun. Remember that one?
But there's a lot of days here in Illinois during the winter we don't see the sun, period.
And can you imagine that? But that's like, okay, so what happens? Your dopamine drops, your serotonin drops, you start to have a little bit of seasonal, right? And if you turn to comfort foods, I love how Stuart Hearns is like, what's a comfort food? Like, there's no such thing. Like there's no food on earth that was like, this is a comfort food, right? Like, no, those are things that we make into comfort. We seek out the dopamine, right? So then now you can recognize that. So when you need the pick me up, you can really think about like, okay, is my gut healthy? And like, what can I do? Can I drink tea? Can I add more fiber? Like, what can I get more light? Right? You know, those lamps that you use. Do I need to go work, like exercise, but outside of my house? Like, do I need to go be with people? Do I need to be in community? Like, you can start asking those questions when you recognize, oh my gosh, like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, well, it might be because it's the middle of winter and I haven't seen the sun in 3 days.
Yeah, that happens a lot here.
Well, when I first moved to Oregon, we had a headline that says 100 days of rain. And it was like 2-inch font, you know, like the WAR font. And I was like, oh, this must be a big deal. And I thought that was normal.
Yeah, I feel much better when there's a little sun.
Yeah. And we recognize that too. That's why we have so many people come down here. So you are more than welcome to come visit us.
Okay.
Like if you see a 3-day like slew of days coming that are gray, like our house is open. We have sunshine here 365 days out of the year.
Except when you have a dust storm.
Oh yeah, but those only last for a limited amount of time, so they blow over.
And you see them coming too. So,
all
right, guys, I tell you what, thanks for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you, Michael and Keith and Joy for coming on board as well and making comments. And I will see you guys next week. Maybe it was, some other time when you guys are, when your class season ends, then we'll get you on the squares.
Oh my gosh, I know that's going to be a whole Taurus cycle. So
I know, it'll be a year, right? But right now, just so people know, we have a testosterone Tuesday, and we have Feel Great Squares on Thursday. And we have science calls coming up this week. So if you know Andrew and Benita, get a hold of them for the protocol. If you know me and Cheryl, then get a hold of us if you want. This stuff. So we love you guys. Thanks for coming on. Have a good night.
Thanks for having us.
Adios.
Bye.
So who's Joy Reader?